Entering 2025 was a legendary year for the automotive community. That's because there's so many cars that have now disappeared from the market as far as buying them new.
I'm beyond excited for this video series here on the channel. My dad and I went out and tried to find the two best cars that we could find under $65,000 that were in like the super sports car, Grand Tour, supercar level of range. And I think we found the two absolute best. What I have behind me is the first year of the R35 GTR, which has gone on from 2009 to 2024, and it's officially done. You can't buy an R35 anymore. And according to Nissan, it doesn't sound like there's any plans of it coming back.
Well, and it also kind of sounds like it might be going out of business here.
Ooh, what's up?
Here, the Jaguar F-Type SVR. This is the first year of the SVR variant. So both of these vehicles can no longer be purchased new, and Jaguar just dug themselves in one of the biggest holes ever. So we have two manufacturers that are going downhill unlike anything I've ever seen in the two best vehicles they've ever produced.
And what I found super interesting is because I'm staying on top of the SVR market because I have just slight OCD. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. But ever since I bought this one, I want the feeling that I got a good deal, which I'm still feeling good about that, by the way. But anyways, Austin, across the entire United States, SVRs 17 to 20 was the model year. At all times, there's like 10 to 13 for sale, like at all times for whatever reason.
That's really funny, and you want to know why?
Why?
Because if you do the exact same search for a Nissan GTR before the slight facelift in 2013, like 2010, 2011, 12, kind of right in that range, you know how many are for sale right now on AutoTrader?
Probably somewhere from 10 to 15.
Exactly.
So that is quite hilarious. These cars are so much more similar than people make them out to be. However, to get a similar price, you need to be looking at a lot older GTRs, because the 17 plus GTRs in comparison to the F-Type are like $50,000 apart.
Right, a 17 plus GTR is more similar to the original MSRP of an SVR that was like 100, 110, 120, 130 grand. You know, so those have skyrocketed in value the newer model years you get. But it is still pretty cool that you get these awesome legendary cars. You can take your pick at a similar, let's just call it $60,000 price point. We're gonna go back and forth and share the specs with these cars because I think it's quite amusing how we'll just find out if they're similar here. Let's start with the weight of these cars because that's what both of these cars can be known for. So this is the SVR. This is supposed to be the lightest F-Type out there. 3,760 pounds is about where the F-Type SVR weighs, and that is fully dependent on your carbon fiber options that you have.
Kazutoki Mizuno was the creator of the R35 GTR, and he once had a legendary quote: "It's not all about lightweight or featherweight to go around corners fast. If you can't make a heavy car go around a corner fast, you're a poor engineer," is basically what he said when developing the R35 GTR. And that does not go without saying that the R35 GTR is a heavy car. Only about 60 pounds, depending on options, is the weight variation difference between this and the F-Type SVR.
Before we tell you what our opinions are on the looks, the interior, and the driving impression, let's get some of the other fun facts out of the way. Performance, right? Horsepower, 575 horsepower out of a supercharged 5-liter V8. Some will say it can go 200 miles an hour. Others will say it does 195. But anyways, that's really freaking fast. 0 to 60 times, 3.3, 3.5 seconds, depending on your source. Quarter mile times, we're talking 11.6 at 123 miles per hour, again, depending on your source.
Right before we talk about power numbers, I need to apologize about this front bumper. We are in the middle of one of the most pain in the butt jobs we've ever dealt with. That's removing 20-year-old paint protection film. It's been absolutely terrible, but we're working on it. We are getting there. Sorry about the front end of this car. We're trying not to show it. Back to what I was saying. Almost 100 less horsepower in the GTR here. 480 horsepower out of its 3.8 liter twin turbo V6, but it still launches to 60 in 3.3 to 3.5 seconds, which is identical to the F-Type. It still does a quarter mile in essentially the exact same time, mid-11s at 123, 124 miles an hour. It has a top speed of 190 plus miles an hour. Some people have gotten it to 185. Some have gotten it to 193. It's really freaking fast. And this one, with a simple tune downpipe, can do 0 to 60 according to online in like 2.9 seconds and take almost a full second off the quarter mile with like $5,000 worth of mods. It's ridiculous. Just before I let you take over here, I want to bring up something that just boggles my mind. The GTR over there, it has 2 less cylinders, almost 2 less liters. It weighs the exact same. It has 100 less horsepower, yet all of the performance numbers are practically identical. Not to mention, it's also a 2009. It's a 2017.
That's quite incredible, right? To recap, we have essentially the exact same price on the used market, exact same performance numbers. Like, you got to give credit where credit's due for Nissan, 8 model years older, being able to produce what Jag did 8 years later, which isn't entirely true. Like 2014 Jag, it's essentially the same motor. They just kind of threw everything at the SVR, right? The technology was there 5 years later, so we'll give them a little credit, but for the sake of argument, the GTR has it going on for it being a 2009. Quite incredible, quite remarkable.
They engineered the crap out of that thing. It's amazing.
Right, so how do you decide which one you want with all these similarities? So you gotta bring practicality into the equation. The Jag here, you can almost get 30 miles per gallon with that ZF 8-speed, almost 600 horsepower. That's incredible, right? All-wheel drive, you got all that going for it. The GTR, like, yeah, big deal. You have a bigger trunk and maybe some back seats, but 20 miles per gallon. You can't hug trees in that thing.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how anyone gets 20 miles per gallon in that car. That vehicle, over the course of the last few thousand miles, has averaged 13.
And
Terrible.
Daily driving this in the summertime, I legitimately get 21, 22 miles per gallon, and I do like to put my foot in it from time to time.
All right, nobody cares about gas mileage here. We're talking about fun weekend cars. Let's talk about looks. This was a really hard one for me.
It really is. Like, I haven't even made up my mind yet.
The F-Type over here is known to be one of the most beautiful Grand Touring cars ever built. It was designed by Ian Callum, one of the most legendary designers ever, designing tons of Aston Martins, some of the highest rated after Aston Martins when it comes to beauty, some of the old Jags. Truly an incredible designer. However, the GTR over here has always been known to be one of the coolest looking cars as well, but it's very interesting. They've got 2 kind of different looks to them. So the F-Type over here, this is just based on being behind the wheel of them, driving them out onto the road. It's hard to take our opinions into it, so I'm going to take the opinions of others. The F-Type gets looks now and then. There's a few people that love the way this car looks, but it's kind of subtle, it's kind of sleek, and not a whole lot of people freak out about it. Now, I don't know if just the nameplate, but if you're behind the wheel of the GTR over here, I don't think I've been in a vehicle that's gotten more attention in my life. Like, it's ridiculous the amount of people that absolutely freak out over this car, and it's identifiable just based on this roof body line alone. Everybody knows what this car is from just this roof line right here.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. Driving this car a lot. I mean, I'm not looking for people that are looking at me, but you do notice out of the corner of your eye from time to time. It gets looks, but nothing like the GTR. I did own a GTR 5 years prior to this one, and I can contest to that same experience. And I owned an F-Type prior to this one, and I can still contest to that same experience. What I will say when it comes to design is, like, you talk about the front of the cars, if the GTR being a 2009 prior to the DBA with the facelift and all that good stuff, I would say the front end of the Jag looks better than the OEM GTR.
I would agree with
those
that.
headlights add so much. When you talk about the side profile, I have to go GTR all day. Exactly what Austin said, that roof line.
It's
I love
beautiful.
Yes, and I love the bronze brake calipers, which are just a unique color. They stand out so much.
And they just look so much more aggressive than the F-Types. It's crazy to me that you couldn't get just standard Brembo calipers on the F-Type without going to carbon ceramic. So these ones just look so much bigger and more menacing.
Those brake calipers not only look good, this is like a +1 for the GTR over here. From 60 to 0, the GTR stops in under 100 feet, like 98 feet. 10 to 12 feet longer it takes the F-Type to stop from 60.
Not only that, but because of the caliper and brake setup on the GTR, I guarantee you it's going to have significantly less brake fade when heavily tracking the car.
When you get to the back, this is when you really throw down and get into a boxing match.
I love how wide the back end of the F-Type is. It's wide hips, the taillights wrapping around the side, the wing, the quad exhaust. I think I gotta go F-Type. I do love the GTR, but it looks kind of narrow stock when you look at it dead on from the back. I think lowered with a little bit wider stance, this one might take it, or it might be really close, but it's really hard to beat the back end of an F-Type.
And I love it. Like, I absolutely love the
great.
back end of this, but I agree with everything you said when it comes to the F-Type, especially when there's that carbon fiber wing back there. It's pretty stellar. All right, Austin, you open the door, you have your first experience getting into each of these cars. Which one is more exciting? Which one wows you?
F-Type.
Okay. Is that only because of the quality? Is that because of the design? Why do you say that?
The quilted door, all SVRs get the quilted treatment.
Okay.
The quilted door panels, the quilted seats, the design of the dash, it just feels so much more high-end, luxurious, special. Getting inside of the GTR, the only reason it feels special to me is because of when I was a kid, seeing all the pictures of the GTR interior, seeing the 3R buttons that you flip up and down. But in reality, when you're inside of there, it's just a cheap Nissan product,
right.
to be honest with you.
So you kind of stated my exact same thoughts here. I'm going to articulate it slightly differently. So this is just a beautiful car. It's a comfortable place to be.
Yeah.
It's well sorted. There's flaws in it, obviously, but I think the GTR, entering the car, especially if you've never driven one before, there's like this extra layer of excitement that builds about getting into the car.
I 100% agree.
Versus the F-Type, right? But then you drive them, and another interesting opinion comes. Again, you have the big roaring V8 versus the V6 with some turbos behind it. So completely different experience with that in mind. We've already said, like, from a speed standpoint, they're neck and neck. So like, which one is more exhilarating to drive?
The GTR. I honestly think it is. It feels, I mean, first of all, the suspension. The thing's twice as stiff at all times.
Yep.
It's honestly can be miserable at sometimes. The car is so unbelievably stiff. It's so much more track oriented than the F-Type. The F-Type, you can clearly tell, is made for grand touring, made for long road trips. The GTR is just always so in-your-face aggressive. The dual clutch transmission is always super loud. It's ridiculous.
It's so much more of a raw car.
Yeah,
so
raw.
if you're looking for that weekend car, you're kind of looking to let your hair down and go woo a little bit, like the GTR is going to give that to you. If you actually want to live with the car and like maybe drive it Monday through Friday and have like multiple personalities, the F-Type is one of my favorite multiple personality cars.
The GTR struggles to have multiple personalities. It always feels like it's ready to go. It's ready to hit the track. The F-Type can really feel quite refined and nice going down the road.
So you're watching this video because you just genuinely love cars. You're a car enthusiast, or perhaps you're actually thinking about buying a GTR. Or maybe you're thinking about buying an F-Type. And that's what this video's like main intent is about. These cars are very, very similar, which makes the decision extremely hard, Austin. But let's frame a question a different way. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, so we've bought these cars because we think they are both incredible. You know, the good deal that we may have gotten has something to do with it. But here's the question, Austin. If we have to sell one tomorrow, which one are you gonna sell?
That's a really hard question. It truly is. Probably the GTR, to be honest with you. I think it would probably be the GTR, but I don't know. A big part of that is just because it's a higher mileage example. It's not as, I don't know. That's a really hard question.
It's a hard question. The impromptu response there, we didn't talk about this prior to, and I didn't do that for a reason, because my mind is in the same boat. Like, I go there initially, but then I'm like, oh man.
If they were same mile examples, it might be a totally different story. But this car has a few things we need to sort out on it. It's got higher miles on it. It's got, I mean, it's not 100% perfect. But the F-Type over here is. It's flawless, has a great ownership history. The GTR is not the same way, and for that reason, it makes me want to pick the F-Type in our personal case scenario. However, you drive the F-Type like it's a fun car. You don't drive it every single day typically. And if that were the case for me, I might have to go with the GTR, especially when it comes to the fact that I know how stressed and how much anxiety you get about
here we go.
reliability.
Here we go.
And he's very worried about the reliability of this car.
No,
Where the
I'm not.
VR38
Here we go.
GT that is under
This
the
guy.
hood of the GTR is just known for pure reliability, pure power. This car already has a built transmission in it, so it's just kind of a big thing of reliability. We know it's going to rock and roll. This is a Jag.
We're looking forward for the asphalt to warm up in temp so we can start throwing these things into some corners like we mean it. Those videos are coming this summer, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. Make sure you comment down below which car you're choosing and why. Let's get into a little fight in the comment section. Love to see that. We'll see you next time.
You guys.